as a practitioner of any adventure sport, you should make sure that you don't watch accident videos before you do the sport. One. Second, never show these videos to your parents, accident videos, because that is what will stick in their head. As a practitioner, you should see that after a certain level for analysis purpose, to learn from the mistakes. But before you do an activity, never look at the negative side. Always be on the positive side. And if you are on the positive side, because you are like wiring your brain to do something right, and you will only execute the right things. But if you see these kind of negative things, it will be embedded somewhere, and at the wrong time, it will crop up. That is called the chimp. You are feeding your chimp. Inside every human being, there's a chimp. That's the villain. So that you have to make sure that you keep silencing your chimp. And one of the ways to silence your chimp is not watching anything negative about the sport, because the chimp is super powerful. You will never even know when it will raise its ugly head, and when it does it at such a time that you can't do a shit about it, and then you'll be totally a victim of the chimp, and the chimp will make you do some crazy things. It will make you alter your judgment. It will make you alter your decisions, and then you know at the back of your mind that you are fucking it up, and the chimp is overpowering you. You can't do anything about it. So from the very outset, nip it in the bud. Keep the chimp as quiet as possible. And over a period of time, you will learn how to totally eliminate the chimp from your mind. When you do that, then it's a different ballgame. But initially, we will have that. That is what makes us do a lot of wrong things, not just in adventure sports, even in day-to-day life. Sometimes we flare up against a wrong person for a wrong reason. But afterwards, we realize we shouldn't have done that. The reason why we did that is your uncontrolled chimp made you do it. And at this time, I always tell everyone to read this book. It's called The Chimp Paradox. Please, everyone in Adventure Line, read that book. It helps you even in your professional life too. The Chimp Paradox. It's a fantastic book. Yeah, go ahead, guys.
Yeah. So now coming to this era in Bangalore, how is paragliding as a sport, and maybe as a how are people taking it up now? What's the situation right now in this era? Like, are people how is the you have you have the club X-Days. You are also an instructor. You teach
Ecstasy
people.
paragliding, yeah. Yeah, first thing is in our country, we do not have the kind of support we need for adventure sports from the government. So one random minister, one random director of sports, or somewhere someone can be supportive only for a certain duration of time. And then when he gets transferred, or when the government changes or the ministry falls, everything goes back to square one. So we don't have a very good support system like in Europe. It will come. We have been very optimistic about a very supportive government coming in to support all these adventure sports, whether it's paragliding or kayaking or rafting. There's so many disciplines of adventure sports. All these need to be supported by the government. Supported in the sense, not financially, but in terms of regulation. Because the only thing the government does now when it comes to adventure sports is to say it's not allowed. Whether you go for kayaking, they don't allow you to put your boat in the river. If you go for skiing, they'll say this slope is not allowed. If you go for rock climbing, they'll say this place like Ravnagar, they'll say it's a bird sanctuary or vulture sanctuary, some bit or the other, just to prevent people from doing it. It's a very weird mindset. Only those in the sport can understand what kind of crazy people they are to stop people from doing adventure sports, because adventure sports is a character building sport. It makes people stay focused. It's very healthy, and they should realize that. And I don't know when it will happen, but right now it's not in a conducive environment. Adventure sport, it will take time.
So
I think
Shankar, how
Shubham,
did the
Yeah.
So I was saying, VP. So even after finishing this course, it's always required to have a touch on the sport, and also how you plan to pursue this in a in your next few months or the next few years. So even after learning the course, since we won't be lucky enough to like have a glider or go to a hill and do have a flight all the time, so we need to be connected with these community as a very tightly knit community in this paragliding, guys whom we have network with people and go do a few ground handling sessions and just try to keep in touch with the sport all the time so that you don't forget whatever you have learned. So I think
Yes,
that's where
consistency is very
we need
important.
to
Yeah.
always be networked all together. And,
Yeah, so in aviation,
Mm.
currency is the word that is used to stay in touch. So pilots have to be current, meaning they have to like keep practicing as and when they get an opportunity. And
Mm.
if the weather is totally not in your favor, there is another technique to stay connected. It's it's a tried and tested and proven method. So it's called visualization technique. So you visualize everything that you did from day one. So one day at a time, you visualize. It's like meditation. So you run through the whole process of what all activities you did on day one, day two, day three. And then you visualize yourself going to a hill, judging the wind, take an anemometer to check the wind speed, and do your research on the weather, an imaginative research on the weather, and pick your time to fly, and then set up, launch, fly, have a flight plan, and execute it all visually. So if you do that, when you get back to the sport when the weather is good, you're still connected. So if you're not using visualization technique, you're putting yourself at a disadvantage. And visualization technique costs you nothing, it's free. So you got to do that. And yeah, as the season progresses, like monsoon comes to an end by September end, and then October onwards will start. And you and Shankar are free to come and do ground handling with me when we go out, and it will be
Sure.
my pleasure. Yeah, because
I
you guys won't have access to equipment, I understand right now. So of course you can come and do kiting with me, and then we can do some hill flying too here and there. And because this year traveling is going to be
see you.
affected. So there'll be affordable rail connection. Trains may be there,
Karan,
but
I
then you run
think
the risk
we
because
missed you
this
there. So
COVID is not going to go away in a week or some time, and you will have cross infections and all those shit. So it's better not to do train journey. But if you have a chance to fly, and if it's affordable, nothing like it. But it looks like this season is done, going to billing. So we'll have to do whatever we can do around Bangalore. So you guys are welcome to come join for ground handling sessions and then flying. No problem.
Also, Naren, can you tell everyone about the tandem paragliding where you don't have to learn everything, but you can still experience paragliding
Yes.
with another pilot
Yeah.
and it
Yeah.
won't
Tandem
cost much?
paragliding, yes, is done with an experienced instructor. And the paraglider that you use for tandem paragliding is twice the size of the paraglider that is used for solo flying. And yeah, you don't have to go through the learning process, but there's just about half an hour of briefing before the flight that you have to follow for takeoff. They set instructions for takeoff and they set instructions for landing. And then you can get into the air, but you should not suffer from heart related issues. That is number one. And then you should not be having any orthopedic issues, like any recent orthopedic procedures followed, because takeoff and landing is going to be like a contact sport, because you're going to have full contact with the ground, and the passenger is the last one to leave the ground and the first one to touch the ground. So his landing gear is very, very important. So he has to be fit, he has to run, and yeah, he can, in certain conditions, he can lift his legs up and sit in the seat. not the recommended run for landing. I can,
No, nothing. We are losing you.
yeah, got me?
No, can you repeat the last part?
Please read
Yeah.
the last part.
Yeah, last part is in tandem paragliding, the passenger gets the experience flying without going through the learning process.
Yeah.
And in certain conditions, the passenger can also have the controls and he can fly it with the supervision of the instructor. And that is for most instructors use tandem paragliding, and I use it for solely for that purpose of training my students before they go on their high flights. I take them, I launch, and then I give them controls and I follow them on the control, and they get first-hand experience of using controls without panicking, because that is one thing that can happen in paragliding. Some students can panic. Panic means they'll freeze. They will listen to radio inputs from the instructor, but they will not execute it. So they stay frozen for some time, which is not a good thing. But we have certain methods to wake them up and get them back into action. Yeah.
ಏನ್ ಮಾಡ್ತೀರಾ ನರೇನ್?
Before the high flights, a lot of things happen. We basically, as instructors, hypnotize the student to follow certain things. So we reduce all the inputs to bare minimum and make them just follow that. Because visual overload, like Amit said, visual overload is one thing that can make a first-time flyer totally phase out. He cannot take off anything because there's so much visual information coming into his brain and it's not able to process, and he can just freeze. And he's like in total awe of everything that's happening, but he forgets what he has to do. So that thing has to be prevented. And tandem paragliding with an instructor is very helpful, because there is one instance that I can tell, that when I was training one guy at Nandi Hills, he came around as a very sportive guy, extremely fun-loving, and he had absolutely no fear, nothing. He was like very athletic chap. And he went through the ground school, he went through all the hops that we did. And the day when his first flight came, I took him for a tandem flight, and he was pretty comfortable in flight. And I had shown him exactly what he had to do, what's the flight path he had to take to go to the landing field, and how to lose height and how to land. And he took off when his time to fly solo came. That was just like half an hour after the tandem flight. He took off, and then he had a radio malfunction, because when he was leaning in his harness to take off, his harness, a buckle in his harness pressed on the power button and it switched off the radio. So I was on the radio giving him commands, and he was exactly doing that. And I was under the impression that he was doing it because of the radio input. And then after a certain distance, the ground took over, the guys in the landing, and they were giving him commands, and he was executing it. And on landing, they went and appreciated him, and they told him to switch off the radio, and he was checking out, and then he found out that radio was off. So they told me that this had happened. And then I sat and over a cup of chai, we inquired, how did this happen? How did you, when you had no inputs, how were you doing the exact same things, what you were required to do? He said, I just did whatever I did in the tandem flight.
Oh.
So that was a big saver. If there was no tandem flight before that, and if there was a radio failure, he would have gone straight ahead and then landed wherever he would have landed. Fortunately, if there is no power lines and fences, then it will be a safe landing. Otherwise, it couldn't be quite disastrous. So many things can happen. Among the failures in the training setup is the electronic failure, the radio failure. It is very common. So it can happen in many ways. One is static interference. So some static interference can happen, and a perfectly functioning radio on takeoff can fail in flight. There can be a lot of disturbance, static disturbance, where you can't hear anything. So that can also happen. So which is why I always train them for the high flights on tandem before they go solo. And this is a very helpful way. And each instructor has his own method and that is like tailor-made for his site, because an instructor will know his site inside out. So when I say inside out, he would have catered to all the mistakes that a student can make, and he will have a plan for every mistake he makes, a solution basically. So that way, training is quite interesting because every student is different, and the way you teach them and the way they absorb is all different. So it never gets boring. Teaching is super exciting.
Awesome. Naren, I think the other part of tandem paragliding, apart from inserting, I think when we visit Manali, Solang, or even Birbiling, let's say, I think there are quite a many places where a visitor can just go visit
Commercial tandem,
a
yes, that is the other one. Commercial
yeah,
tandem.
probably the risks.
Commercial tandem is both a boon and a boon because it gives the opportunity for any stranger to the sport to get into paragliding, experience the thrills of paragliding in a very safe way. He can just walk in, sign up, and fly. That's all it takes. And then he gets to experience paragliding, and then he can decide whether he wants to take it further and learn or just leave it at that. But the bane, the disadvantage of tandem paragliding is when it is not done in an ethical and technical way, it can be a huge problem. And Manali has become notoriously famous for lots of commercial tandem accidents because their situation of that place has made a lot of people for horse rides to become paragliding pilots. So from a horse to a paraglider, it's a long way. But then they thought it's the same thing. I put two people on a horse and I do the same.
We lost him, I think. Yeah, I think that was a very important point which Naren was mentioning. So let's wait for him to
Yeah.
say what his opinion is on commercial tandem flights.
Is that the a meme happened in between, like a famous meme? Was that in Manali?
I'm not sure which place that was. No, I'm not sure, Shubham.
Now, network, got the network back. Do you hear me?
Yeah,
Yes.
now we can.
Yeah, so commercial tandem happens. In Manali, this is the reason why it happens. And I was telling you that we always carry a rescue parachute. We call it a second chance. And if the main paraglider fails or it gets into an unstable situation, then we throw the rescue and we come down under the rescue. But most of the flights that they do in Manali are short flights, so they don't carry a rescue. So when something goes wrong, they have no second chance and they end up usually killing the passenger, or in worst cases, both are gone. And it's that simple because you get a hit at 40 kilometers per hour and you hit the ground, they say in paragliding, the air does not hurt, the ground hurts. So you've got to be very careful when you're low. And this happens. This is a big problem in entire Himachal and wherever tandem paragliding is done commercially, even in Panchgani, for example. But where it is done in a regulated way, where a lot of importance is given to safety, and where money is not the most important thing, there it's got to be safe. It will be safe. Like the schools that organize tandems around the world, and there are many tandem companies. Like in Nepal, if you go, there are at least 100 tandem paragliding companies. So these tandem paragliding companies establish after they go through a lot of scrutiny, and the pilots are adequately trained, and they do it only in good weather conditions. Amit, you would have also noticed even in billing, which is supposed to be such a hub for paragliding, they do a lot of such shit there. Tandem paragliding,
Yeah.
especially they fly. The weather is closing. I've seen in April when there were thunderstorms, big storms coming from Big Face and Dharamsala side. They're still flying in the air and getting blown back, and then they're landing in strong winds, getting blown back with the passenger rolling on the ground and getting into all kinds of situations. But they never stop. That's a sad part.
Yeah.
There have been fatalities there, but they never stop because they have certain people in the government which always gets them clearance to fly. And they have to change their mindset. Money is not everything. I think this COVID has taught them that greed, excessive greed, is going to lead them to big trouble. And COVID just shut everything down. And in this time, I think they realized that they got to be like, use their common sense and fly when it is good to fly, and make whatever they can make. Of course, money is important, but if you put money ahead of safety, then I think it's a very wrong decision. So tandem paragliding has an advantage and disadvantage. It has to be done in a very ethical way where safety is given topmost priority. Number 2 is passenger experience, and number 3 will be the financial part of it, the benefit, the gain or whatever from it. So it should be in this order, but unfortunately, money comes first. And these two never play a role in commercial paragliding in India. They are not bothered about the passenger experience, because in most flights, the passengers is never even talked to by the pilot. The pilot has to keep the passenger engaged in conversation, because he's getting some experience which is extremely unusual to him, and he can fall airsick too. So you got to keep him engaged, keep him entertained. And if you are not in touch with the passenger, then he can become very sick, and that's not a good experience at all for him. He will land and he'll forget about the sport. He'll find the sport painful. That should not be the case. The objective of a tandem flight, a good job done is when the passenger says he loves the sport and he comes back to learn it. Even if he doesn't come back to learn, he must love this sport. He must carry sweet memories back. That should be the job of the tandem pilot. Then it's a good job. And I'm sure in due course of time, it will reach that stage, because people are learning that the other aspects of the sport, how to prioritize, what to prioritize. And once they get everything sorted, they will grow like it's growing in Europe.
I think, Naren, there was this one particular video which even me and Shubham were talking about, which became like really viral 2 months back. You remember that video?
That one. Yeah. So in that video, the mistake that the pilot did was he had not made the passenger sit comfortably in the harness. So the passenger was dangling the leg straps, and the leg straps were digging into his balls. So he was in pain. So he wanted to come down. Initial excitement and Gora and all this over, and then he realized that was like super painful. And if the pilot did not make him comfortable, he has to make sure the passenger sits comfortably. And then none of this would have happened. He would have enjoyed the flight. He would have probably sung a nice song, and then they would have happily landed. But then, because of that situation, luckily the leg straps held on. It did not snap. If it had snapped, the passenger would have fallen off. Big danger.
I think what Naren mentioned was really important. It's not like you're dangling around like just a few straps of the harness. You're like comfortably sitting on a couch while you're on the flight. So there's no extra weight or added strain on your arms or your legs. The seat harness or the complete body harness, right? So it's so well padded. It's almost like you're sitting on a couch and just looking left, right, and center and enjoying the view in the flight. So,
yeah, it's very comfortable. When you are nicely seated, when the harness is properly fitted, it will be super comfortable.
I think what would be the longest flight, Naren? So probably for you also, like what was your longest flight? What you would have done, Naren?
I did. There was once when we were flying in Goa in April. May is like super strong summer, no? So we'll have the sea breeze setting in early, and it will the flyability of the day will be long. So we take off around 10 o'clock. The sea breeze sets in that early. So one day, myself and my student called Harsha Kadam, he is like always. He comes from the corporate background. He used to be a CEO in Smith Klein and French. That no, not Smith Klein and French. SKF Bearings. So he was always competitive, always competitive. And one day it rubbed into him that he has to compete with me. And he said, Naren, I want to do an endurance flight with you. I said, why you want to do it with me? Do it with someone else. No, the younger people. No, I want to fly with you. I want to fight till the end and all those things. He said, I said, okay, Baba, if you really want to fly long, you come. But there's no fighting here. Okay, let's enjoy the flight. So we took off and we did a long flight. We took off at 10. And I think he landed at 5:20 and I landed at 6. So that was a super, super long flight. And the mistake that he did in that flight, what he thought he was like, super prepared, and he had loaded his harness with lots of water bottles and he kept on drinking water. But what happened is mid flight, he started getting like that big urge to pee, but there was no way he could do that. So he was saying, Nade, you go and land and I will land next. I said, I'm not landing first. And I was just taking small sips out of a liter of water. And he had finished 3.5 liters of water. And he thought more water I drink, more mileage I will get. And it was a very interesting thing because I have the video of him landing. He landed and right on the beach, he just unclipped from his harness and took a leak. A CEO taking the leak in front of public.
Oh my God.
Oh my God, I can't forget that. And that was like hilarious. And then he said, after the I landed, he said, never ever will I compete with anyone for anything. I said, good. Paragliding has taught you something. You got to be realistic with what you want to do. But it was a really long flight. I must say it was very boring. But I had to do it just to try in good spirit. And then, he did his longest flight. Otherwise, he would have landed in 3 hours. This was over 6 hours, I think. 7 hours, yeah.
What is average flight timing?
There is no average, but then it depends on the pilot's comfort and the weather condition. So you can, once you are in an intermediate stage and you go to a hill which is soarable, like when we say soarable, we use two forms of lift. One is the dynamic lift, another is the thermal lift. And depending on what kind of lift you choose to use, so you can stay up for about 2.5 hours is common. Many people stay up for 2.5 hours. But most people lack endurance. Their body starts to tire because there's a lot of things going on in your head when you're flying. As I told you, it's like more mental and less physical. So your head is working all the time and you're draining energy from there. So you can become tired after 2.5 hours. And then your legs can become numb. And many people don't feel their legs when they're coming in for landing because you have to keep moving all your body parts, especially your landing gear, so that it doesn't go numb. We call it going to sleep. So if you allow your legs to go to sleep, then you can't use them. And you make we call it bum landing, which is not good at all. It is unsafe because you can compress your spine if it is coming at a wrong angle. You always have to land on your leg. It's like an aircraft landing on its landing gear, not on its belly. Belly landing, the aircraft is written off. In our case, we are not written off thanks to our harness. But in worst case scenario, yes, you can have a very bad spinal compression. Spinal compression means you are bedridden for life. Always land on your legs, always. Whether it's high-speed landing or appropriate speed landing, whatever, you have to land on your legs.
Awesome.
Naren,
So,
I have a question for you. Can you share one of your best experience with respect to any accidents or anything that you have
Accidents are not best experience.
occurred when you're
Yeah. But I will share a good cross-country experience. In fact, that was
Okay.
my very first cross-country flight from Nandi Hills. I went. We used to fly with those days. As I said in my beginning days, I had very good flying partners, and my mentors in paragliding were two German airline pilots. They used to fly for Lufthansa. So one of them called Uli. myself, Uli, and there was another guy called Vinay, and we went flying one day, and that was a very good day because the cloud base was high. It was in the month of April, and I took off. We all three took off, and then we got nice thermals in different locations, and I reached a cloud that was like really high, and then I decided to go downwind. But Uli decided to go crosswind because he wanted to land close to the road so that he can get back to his hotel. He had his flight in the night, middle of the night, like 2 a.m. or something. So that was his priority. But we were all on radio contact. And I went downwind and I landed near a place called Gorvanalli Lakshmi Temple. That's near Tumkur Road. So that distance was about 32 kilometers something from Nandi Hills as the crow flies. And the best part of that flight was that I was flying over. When you're very high at clouds and all, you can't like see the ground features and figure it out because you're flying over that place for the first time. But I had one ground feature which I could easily recognize was that Makli Durga range. And how I recognized Makli Durga range was everything looks flat, but what made me clear was the railway track going next to the hill, and I saw a train going on that. The train looked like an earthworm, exactly like an earthworm. That high. And then when I knew that was Makli Durga, and then I got my bearings. Okay, I'm heading towards Tumkur. I didn't want to go too far, and then when I found a nice landing field, I lost height and I landed. But throughout my landing process, when I was losing height, there was one woman on the field running exactly the way that I was moving around. She was following my flight plan. I was wondering what she's doing. And when I finally landed and she looked at me, she just sat down and she screamed, Ayo, Niwa. She said, Manchana. She said, then ಯಾಕೆ ಏನಾಯ್ತು then she said, ಅಣ್ಣೋ ನನ್ನ ಪಕ್ಕದ ಊರಿಂದ ಸೀರೆ ಹಾಕೊಂಡ್ ಬರ್ತದೆ ಅಂತ ಬಂದೆ ಅವಾಗಿಂದ ಓಡ್ ಬರ್ತಾ ಇದೀನಿ ನಾನು. She said. Then I spoke to her for some time and then I told her, don't worry, tell me where you live. Then she said pakkad uru and all the things. So next day I had to go to mark the location on GPS. I was not carrying the GPS that day. So when I went there, I had taken one saree for her from Co-optex. I went to the village, found her, gave it to her. And all the other women in the village, ಯಾಕೆ ಅವಳು ಮಾತ್ರ ಕೊಡ್ತೀಯ, ನಮ್ಗೆ ನಾವೇನ್ ಮಾಡಿದ್ವಿ ಅದು ಇದು. Then that lady had to tell them that we have no connections. This guy was a paraglider who landed there and I went running to look for him. ಅಷ್ಟು ಬೇಗ the villagers started building stories. ಇವನ್ಗೂ ಅವ್ರಿಗೂ ಏನು ಐತೆ. But that was like an amazing experience. And most people know when you do a cross-country flight, they say cross-country flying, the adventure begins after you land. So I had a lot of adventures that day. When coming back also, the people, there was a big, like about 50, 60 people were following me. And when I was packing the glider too, they will always be around, no? So they will keep on concocting their own stories. Now, an aeroplane in the Egarda, and not the flight, not the, oh my God, the stories that they built right in front of my eyes. They were doing all these things. Then I had to clarify.
50-60 ಸೀರೆ ಕೊಡ್ಬೇಕಾಗಿತ್ತು ನರೇನ್ ನೀವು.
No, fortunately it was only one lady who was interested, who came running. Many had come, I wouldn't have done that. But that was like super important feeling. There was another hang glider pilot who also from Australia. She flew a hang glider and landed around that area only. But her experience was she did not come back to Nandi Hills that evening because we had a room there and there were 4 Australian pilots, hang glider pilots who were flying. And she was the one who did the cross-country flight. Her name was Tony. She landed in a village and she decided not to come back because she saw a lot of kids on the landing field. And when she inquired with the women, who are these kids? And they all said, each woman was saying, this is my kid, this is my kid. And she realized that each woman was having 4 or 5 kids. And she asked, why you have so many kids when you have not enough money to take care of them? Poverty, basically, when there's poverty, why you have so many kids? And they said it's all God's, God given, Then she decided that she has to educate them. So she stayed there overnight, met the school teacher in the landing field, and then she stayed there in his house. And she ran a class, a class where the women understood what is birth control. They had no clue until then. So she told them, educated them about birth control, and made sure that all of them took a promise on her that they will not have, all the young women who are not married, that if they get married, they will have only one kid, not more than that. And they have named one circle in that village as Tony Circle, which is huge.
Wow.
You know that he wrote an article about it in New Zealand Hang Gliding magazine also. So we can affect the locals in many ways. We are basically like when we go on land, no, in any place. First, there is a lot of suspicion about us, whether we are humans or whether we are extraterrestrial beings. And once they know we are humans, the way we communicate with them, because they are also impressed with what we are doing, whatever you say will have weight. So you have to make sure that you put some sense into them that is not there. Because in most places, they will not have basic idea about how to lead a life in comfortable way. So you can explain a lot of stuff, and basically we're ambassadors of the sport. So if you remember that, we can do a lot wherever we go, and we can win a lot of hearts. So you have a lot of adventure, you and Amit, Shankar, you and Amit have a lot of adventures in store when you do cross country flying.